Hello, Dallas. Thank you once again for joining us at Retire with Clarity with John Lawton and Stewart Fields, co-founders of Open Air Advisors. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. John and Stewart, it's great to see you fellas. How are you doing this week?
We're doing great. I think we're doing great, yeah.
Yeah, a lot better than the economy, though. And unfortunately, that's what we've got to talk about. We're going to talk about getting recession ready for retirees. Stewart, are we having to take emergency measures right now, or just going step by step through the process?
You know, step by step is important. You know, we're getting a lot of questions about, is my portfolio doing okay, or hey, can you take a look at this? And people say, are we headed for that recession, and am I recession ready? And so people like to say, like, are we in a recession or not? And, I think we are, but how do you know? How do our clients know, or people that are watching the show know if they're in a recession? Well, take a look at your portfolio. If you lost over $100,000, I don't care what we're calling, the economy right now. Your portfolio is in a recession. And so you really, our analysis, our tools will help them identify basically where do we go from here. So it's going to be a good show. I'm excited. We're going to touch on a lot of topics that help a lot of people out tonight. So
Good. John, we're going to turn you into the professor. Look, we keep hearing this word all over the place. First, can we just start with the definition of recession, or at least what folks in D.C. are trying to call it, or rename it?
I was going to say, a lot of folks on the news are, are saying, well, are we technically in a recession, or are we not? And that seems to be a big argument right now. The rule of thumb is really 2 quarters of negative GDP. Well, and I would agree with Stewart. If we're looking at our portfolio, it feels like we're already in a recession. We've already had 2 quarters of negative GDP. I think we're technically in a recession right now. Okay, but more importantly, what we're going to continue to focus on today's program is talking about solutions for today's retiree. It's a scary R word. It's not something that we want to keep hearing over and over again on the news. But with Stewart and John here, we're going to provide solutions. What can we actually do for you? That's what Retire with Clarity is all about. And more importantly, Open Air Advisors. And that's something I want to point out the difference. You both aren't just broadcasters here. You're financial advisors helping people with retirement planning strategies. There's different kinds of financial advisors. Stewart, I wanted to ask you, during our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, or 50s, we're accumulating assets, though. There's a different kind of advisor you want to work with, though, as you're getting towards retirement, correct? For sure. You definitely want to be taking a holistic, comprehensive approach. And what do those words mean? Well, essentially, it's to take a look at the whole picture. And so I was actually met a gentleman, his wife, years ago, came to one of our client events. And he, he thought he had a really good advisor, and who was basically, over the last 14 years, gangbuster returns, portfolios were growing. Monkeys were doing really good back then. However, that's not the case anymore. And so, but the interesting thing that he said to me was, well, my advisor the last 2 years saying, we're doing this, we're doing that to the portfolio. So we think your portfolio is recession ready. But he came to me, again, maybe for the dozenth time, said, Stewart, can you give a second opinion? Can you give me a checkup? Because I'm pretty concerned, because I don't think I'm recession ready, because the market's down over 20% now, maybe 25%, and his portfolio is down near the same thing. So he's like, I'm confused. And so that's really what we're here to help. But we were able to show him exactly why, what he was hearing from his advisor. Oh, we got you protected here and here. We were able to pinpoint on his actual statement of why that's not the case and how those things are actually working against him. Because now, retirement's 2 years from now, he goes, do I need to start working longer? And so that was really eye-opening, because he goes, Stewart, I just trusted him. He was saying I was, was good, until I basically started seeing these returns, thinking, where's the protection that I'm hearing about? I want to ask you a little bit more about that, though. I'm trying to figure out this relationship itself. You said he came to one of your events, one of your live events, wasn't a client of yours, though. But you've been talking to him and helping him for years. Why would you give out that kind of free advice to somebody who's not even a client of yours?
It's kind of funny, though, because I feel like we kind of talk about all the time of the people that we've helped. And it's almost like we take pride in the longer the relationship before they become clients, because it's always like, it's rewarding, because they're coming back to us occasionally for checkups. And when they say, hey, I'm getting advice from you that's completely different, and you can kind of see them, eventually, we all have that moment, whether it's algebra in 6th grade, you're like, well, why does, negative times a negative equal positive? We don't know until one day we do. And that's what we're really good at is one day that light bulb does come out. And that's because of the approach that we take John, Chris, myself do a really good job at diving down to that whole picture. Say, all right, why does a negative times a negative equal a positive?
Well, and just to your point, and with the individual that you're talking about, he was in an accumulation, he was working with an accumulation type advisor. And so many folks go into retirement or are getting close to retirement, and they're using the same tools going into that retirement conversation or going into retirement than what they did for accumulation. And those two advisors, those two people are two totally different things. You know, if you go talk to an accumulation advisor, do they know how to do the math on Social Security? Do they know how to take get every dollar out of Social Security? Are they looking at your Medicare? Are they looking at your risk? This individual that Stewart's talking about, we see it day in and day out. You feel like he was telling you about all the protection he was putting in the portfolio, but when it came down to it, and when we actually had the situation like we're having, this year, where was that protection? Did he have the right tools to help protect the portfolio? Because at the end of the day, if you're living off of your portfolio, you've got to have a place for that income to come from.
And I've been in that other advisor's shoes. I mean, I worked for one of the big box, firms in here.
We all did. We all did.
We understand the pressure that they need to get, X amount of clients. And so what happens is I learned a lot, I got a lot of repetition, but what happened was I learned a lot of skills, but I wasn't able to spend a lot of time with these people. So, asset gathering is somewhat an easy part of a job, but once you start bridging and going over that gap and really doing comprehensive planning, you can't have, 500 clients. You can't have 250 clients because it does take a lot of time doing what we do. And that's why I think our relationships, kind of snowball and we add value, week by week, month by month.
I'm always interested when you say that because at the accumulation kind of firms, they're also accumulating clients as much as they can. But the both of you, and Chris as well, when he's on the television program, you're a little bit more discerning about the kind. Would you like to maybe define a little bit of the kind of client who would be best to call the phone number that you see on the screen here?
Absolutely. So if you're sitting here watching the show and you have questions about what is the market doing, has your advisor called you in the last 2-3 months to say, hey, hey, Bob, how are you doing? This is how your portfolio is doing. If he's not doing that, that's what we're actively doing right now is making sure our clients feel comfortable, that they understand how their portfolio is set up. So if you have questions or if you just want that checkup, please call us. This is a great opportunity. It's 844-333-6059. There's a cool little QR code on our screen. Makes it easy for you. So, walk up to the picture, take a picture, and find our landing page. So thanks for watching. We've got some really great things to come. 844-333-6059.
We're going to continue talking about how exactly we get recession ready right now. I think by definition, we've figured out we're in one. The next thing is nobody knows how long it's going to last, right? So we need to make sure that we're prepared for it, that our money's going to last with the ups and downs. So we'll continue talking about that throughout today's program. Folks, make sure that you call the phone number right here so you can get your own Clear Path Retirement Guide, 844-333-6059. And as Stewart, all of us have just discovered recently the great QR code that's on the bottom of our screen. Open your phone. Go to the pictures on there, and when you put your camera on there, and when point your camera on there, it'll take you right over to the landing page. You can see past episodes of the show, and you can go right to scheduling your own appointment. So either use the QR code, call the phone number, more Retire with Clarity when we get back right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go? And who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Retire with Clarity with John Lawton and Stewart Fields of Open Air Advisors. And we're talking about the fact that we know that there is a recession going on right now, and whether you are pre-retirement or you've just started your retirement or you're deep into it, is your money going to last? So that is part of the process, of course, is doing an income plan. If you don't have an income plan, you might not know what factors are going to affect how quickly you're going to draw down from your accounts. But coming in right now, so let's talk with folks who aren't clients already.
Okay.
Where do you start in the process right now? Is it just looking at our total lump sum and seeing, do we have enough, or are we taking a look to see what is, safer money, longer term money, investment money?
I'll just say, we at Open Air Advisors have a process. We do a process every time with the folks that come in, and so it's routine for us. That way we make sure that everybody gets. That way we make sure that we go from A to Z with everyone that walks in. But the first thing is just, inventorying your assets, getting a look of what those assets are and where they are. I had someone in my office the other day that put together their own income plan. They were trying to take distributions on a monthly basis from their 401k. Now, Spike, if you've ever tried to do this, this can be a very, very challenging thing.
Yeah.
And one of the big dangers of this is whenever you look, we were just talking about accumulation versus retirement financial planners. Well, a 401k is designed for accumulation. And you have limited investment options inside that 401k. And so as we went through the process and we were reviewing the assets, all of the assets that they owned were, I'm going to call them go assets. They were the green light assets. They were the ones that are correlated to the market. They're only the ones that were go assets. And so this individual had been retired for 4 years, and they were taking 8% out of their portfolio every single year, and it's worked. And Spike, it's just like we were saying. I mean, you could
over the last 14 years, anybody.
You throw a dartboard, throw a dart, and you're going to do well inside the market. And you have a lot of advisors that are talking about the protection that are putting in place. But if you haven't been doing this over time, he's getting to the point now where his investments have lost value, and he's coming to me saying, "Where do I go for my income? What asset?"
Yeah.
He's to a point now where he's going to have to sell, and so we're reviewing the assets and we're building a plan around. And it's almost like, you go to the hospital and it's almost like triage, right? So now we're inventorying all the assets. We're making sure of the income need that they have to have. And I would say when you're looking at that income need, you have your fixed expenses. Those are the ones that, like your mortgage, it's going to come in every month. That bill's going to come whether you like it or not. And then you have the variable ones like your, vacations and your meals and going out and vacations. Right now for this individual, for this year, all of those variable expenses, for this situation, we're going to have to dial those back this year. And we're going to have to, tighten the belt a little bit. The fixed income expenses, those are the ones we have to make sure that we can cover just by building the plan. But
I think one of those things, like going back to all those go assets, like you mentioned, people think that their plan's going to change automatically. It's like, all right, well, I'm now 60 years old or 55 or 65. I'm getting close. My plan's going to change overnight to this, this wonderful plan that protects me and it gives me this great income.
Right.
And then they're like, this recession that we're in, or basically, people are losing $100,000, $200,000. Are like, when was I supposed to make this change?
Right.
Because
Right.
people are like, all right, I'm supposed to be saving. And
Where
they
was
never-
that 401k provider to go, hey, by the way, do you know the risk that you're taking?
Yeah.
But that's a different kind. Those are accumulation providers.
And that's not their job. And truthfully, that's not your. And a lot of times, whenever you retire from a company, they're looking for an opportunity to jettison your 401k into an IRA and let that be the responsibility of the custodian. And I would just say, if anyone's out there and looking at this, take the opportunity that we're giving folks. I mean, we do so much work for people to give them clarity in their retirement, whether they're in that triage mode, they're trying to figure out where income's going to be, or they're looking to grow their assets. You want to be able to you want to have all the information to be able to make good decisions.
Stuart, I've got a question for you because you were talking about losing $100,000, $200,000 inside your retirement accounts. Obviously, then that must be a pretty large nest egg. So if we were talking about maybe we should have protected that earlier, Are you talking about putting money into annuities? Are you talking about completely rolling out those large lump sums? Where are you talking about protection, as you say?
You know, the first thing I like to start with is basically what diversification really is. You know, if I ask someone on the street, you know, what's diversification, what I'm going to hear is don't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm going to say, great, you got the first part. The second part of diversification is diversifying your strategies. You mentioned about annuities. You know, that could be one piece. It may not be one piece. Okay. It really depends on that. But what's really key is when we have those things firing at different cylinders. You know, if you're driving your motor, your engine, the car, everything's not firing at the same time. You want to basically time those things up because that gives the client, you know, the flexibility, the confidence to know where that paycheck's going to come from because say, hey, I've got 3 strategies right now. This one's doing pretty good. You know, the market's down 25%. This one's flat. This one's up 2. So if we can basically show them that diversification really isn't just spread all your stuff on the table, but really dive into those that what is that strategy? Everyone has a bias. The smartest person in the world has a bias.
Right.
But if basically they make decisions, they interpret decisions based off how their brain works. But we need multiple of those masterminds, those portfolio managers that give them choices. So I think that's the biggest thing that, you know, when we look through them and we educate and say, hey, all right, this is where you're at now, going back to it doesn't happen overnight. So how do we go from go mode to basically preservation and distribution mode? That's where, like, you know, we can really start saying, hey, we're now putting you in a position where you're not at risk at losing 20, 25, 30% as easy as you were, you know, before we, you know, watched the show.
And then Spike asks the question, do we roll all of it? And are we talking about putting all of our money from the 401k, or are we just going to put all that money in an annuity? And I'll just tell you, that's not the answer. We want to make sure we have multiple buckets of money. Annuity might be a good choice. And if we need money that is protected, that can't lose value, that still has access points along the way, for a lot of folks, we have those buckets of money that are set aside, they're put in place. So right now, you know, if we're looking across the board for our clients and we're looking at where are we going to drive income in an area that hasn't lost value, we might be going over to this other bucket of money. And I know a lot of people are out there and they're thinking, well, I didn't do that, and so now I'm down, so what do I do?
Okay, exactly. Right now, we were talking to somebody, and they're worried about what's already happened to them.
Still got to make good decisions. You still have to make good decisions, and as you're inventorying your assets and as you're looking at the level of risk that you're taking, having a second set of eyes on that, a second set of educated eyes, because eventually, if you are taking an income, you're going to have to start trimming those positions. What's the right order that you go in? How can you do that most effectively? Because the worst thing you could do is start selling assets that are underwater, your most risky assets, because whenever the market does come up, and it eventually will, what we want to make sure is that we're not sacrificing our future growth for the income that we need today.
Right.
You're talking about the worst thing someone can do. Well, the best thing someone can do right now is really to look at that portfolio and find out basically, like, what do I do with this? Like, basically, I've lost, you know, if you're watching the show and you find yourself in that situation, you've lost 50, 100, 300,000, maybe even more, it's how do you recover? Right. You know, this is not the bottom. I mean, you know, the market could easily go down. There's no crystal ball. But what we have to do, to John's point, is we can't go back much further. We can stop the bleeding, but how do we recover? Because what we don't want to happen is we don't want the market to go back to even, whether that's 3 months from now, a year from now.
3 years from now.
But you're still 10% down. I saw it all the time coming out of 08, and it was because they didn't have the proper tools to basically, you know, make back that loss. And it's possible, you know, we can't tell you when, but we can basically put you on a really good path and kind of show you the way. And that's what our Clear Path to Retirement Guide does. It really lays that out to find out this is what you need to do. You know, you can do the research. We can learn, you know, Google is my best friend. You know, I love it. I've learned a lot of things about it. My neighbor makes fun of me because she calls me the grass scientist because I'll be out there pulling weeds and checking soil and roots, and goes, I thought you were a financial advisor. So I've learned a lot. But what we can really do is show you exactly what it is. There's been a lot of different suggestions, advice that we hear a lot of times. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. So our guide will really show them.
And we do this every day. And
that's the big difference.
There's no, I would say, you know, we work with individuals that are looking to retire or already in retirement. But if you have that retirement mode, you need that Clear Path Retirement Guide.
Folks, call the phone number you see right here so you can start your own Clear Path Retirement Guide. There is no cost to it. We're going to take a look through 5 different factors, everything from your investments, your fees, your taxes, legacy planning, health care choices through the longevity of your retirement. And all of it starts with the phone number right here, 844-333-6059. Dallas, do yourself a favor. Get your retirement clear. Call John, Stewart, Chris when you can. Get on with Open Air Advisors. More Retire with Clarity when we get back right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Retire with Clarity with John Lawton and Stewart Fields, one of the co-founders of Open Air Advisors. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, and today has been about recession readiness, getting ready for that, trying to kind of proof your own portfolio from it as much as you possibly can. There are obviously no absolutes here, but we want to make sure we keep that income going. But we've got a listener question, a viewer question here that I wanted to ask before we wrap up today's program, if you guys don't mind. I've got Rachel in Grapevine. She said, my husband, Rich, he's going to retire next year at 67. I'm planning to retire the following year at 65. What should we be doing differently with our investments as we get ready to retire? We've got approximately $1.3 million in our 401ks, as well as about $200,000 in our Roth. First of all, Rachel, thank you very much for your question.
And good job saving.
Yeah, I was going to say, and great job saving. It looks like they've done a wonderful job with their nest egg. The first thing that I notice is they've got about $200,000 in that Roth. And I would just say for anybody that's out there, that's great. That tells you that they have taxes in mind. Because one of the things that we want to make sure of as we're doing that retirement plan is we as financial planners have your taxes in mind. So they've already done some of the work there. The next thing that we need to know is what are your expenses and what is the distribution need that you're going to have in retirement to look back to say, is this enough? Do we need to take the level of risk that you're taking now, or do we need to be dialing that back? So risk tolerance.
Learn about their grandkids. Are they going to be giving to, see their kids, or their kids or grandkids? I mean, those expenses aren't just your daily expenses, but they're like, what are your goals? Are you going to move, home improvements, those types of things? Are you going to put a pool in? Those are things that are really important. And so again, we're congratulating her. Maybe we should. Maybe her expenses are $25,000 a month.
And you see that, you really do. If you sat back in our office, we see that every day. One of the things I noticed, there's a small difference in their age, 67 and 65. So when we look at Social Security and some of that other planning, that might be something that we look at. We don't know.
That wasn't clear to me in here, whether they've turned on that spigot or not, if they both started Social Security. Are they both waiting to retire?
And assuming that they haven't, and if we look at the plan, did both of them work and have about the same kind of income? Has she not worked and him, or did she work all these years and him not work? So when we look at that, we might delay one as protection for the other spouse, right? Because if one of the spouses predeceases, the biggest Social Security is going to survive. So we want to make sure that we're protecting the family as we build that retirement plan there as well.
Well, with this, and again, going to the numbers here, folks, we don't have them up on the screen, $1.3 million in their 401ks. You said that, glad to know that they've got a Roth there, but what about this other tax-deferred money? Is this something you'd want to talk about?
That's without knowing Rachel's expenses, but that was one thing that caught my eye was how it was weighted. And so let's say their expenses are just regular. Maybe they're $4,000 or $5,000 a month. And so I see that, and RMDs, which has been a popular show in the past, it's going to be a popular show in the future. I see a big tax time bomb here potentially for Rachel and her husband. So how are they going to lower that burden? Taxes are going to change in 2026. We wake up January 1, and Trump's tax cuts are gone, and our taxes do go up. So, and that probably won't be the last time. So that definitely needs to know a little bit more about Rachel's situation to find out, that could potentially be a liability. But the good news is, she has some education. I can tell she's saved to her Roth IRA. Maybe she's already done some conversions in the past. But how do we make that more efficient? Should she take it, a couple steps further? I think that's going to be
right. Lastly, with the money that's in their 401ks, it's something that you were hitting on earlier in the program. Are we going to leave these at the employer accounts, or do we want to move these? Because you said getting distributions out of these, like on a month. That's not really what 401ks are built for.
Right. They're really designed to go the other way. They're really designed as an accumulation vehicle. So that's one thing that we would want to review is the 401k, really targeting the level of risk, because again, the 401k, if it's designed for accumulation, most likely it's probably all go money. And so we want to look at, does she have her 3 buckets? Does she have that safe money? That money that we're going to live off of now whenever the market's down? Does she have the intermediate money? Does she have that growth money? So we need to make sure that she has all the pieces to her plan so that this money will live and hopefully provide a legacy to the rest of the family there as well.
Right. If you don't mind, John, we've got to wrap up today's program. We know that folks are still concerned and worry about the recession, the very high inflation, the market volatility right now. The Clear Path Retirement Guide, is this more than just a 5-minute, 10-minute phone call?
No, the Clear Path Retirement Guide is your gift in retirement. What we do is we sit down with you, understand your goals, your level of risk, your assets, your budget, and your dreams, just to understand your entire view of what your retirement wants to be. We put the report together to dive into those assets and make sure that you have clarity in all the decisions you make in retirement.
And by the way, nothing with John lasts for 5 minutes. So
exactly, including our program here, folks. We got to wrap it up. Thank you, John and Stewart, so much. Thank you for watching Retire with Clarity. Call and get your own complimentary retirement Clear Path Guide. 844-333-6059. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week.